Mandy has been behind the chair for 18 years. 16 of those, she's been a Redken artist as well. She's a salon owner. She's got Fix Salon in Seattle, Washington that she's owned for over 10 years. And her goal really when she steps on stage, which you're going to feel today, is to really inspire each person she connects with in a very inclusive way. She's very driven to help career-minded stylists to live their best life through education and mentoring. So please put your hands together, type into the chat to welcome Ms. Mandy McCullough.
Hey, Andrew. Good morning. Good morning,
How are you, my
everybody.
friend?
This is so exciting. I'm so excited to be here, you guys. All of you who are from literally all over the world. That is so cool. So well worth being here. For me, I'm in Seattle, Washington, so it's 8 a.m. here, and so this has been really exciting. Everything's been set up since last night. I am stoked to be with everybody. So Andrew, thank you, and thank you to Samvia and all of the amazing team who puts this all together for us.
Absolutely. I'm going to get off the screen so you can get right into it because I know you got a lot to share today.
Let's jump into it. Awesome. All right, you guys. So I'm going to just start cutting and talk to you as I'm cutting. So what I'm doing today is I'm talking about how to strategically, that's the key word, strategically remove weight in all hair types. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. So here's what's interesting is that as I'm telling all my friends and my family, like, oh, I'm doing this class on weight removal. My friends who have fine hair and low density hair, they're like, oh, that's great. Good for you. That's never about me. I never need weight removal from my hair. You guys, they need weight removal from their hair, right? Because we know that what's going to happen is they need movement. So this isn't just always about weight removal to to flatten out a hair shape, right? This is really about weight removal to add movement and softness and blending. And it doesn't matter if somebody has tons of hair or if somebody has a little bit of hair. As long as we're strategic and we're using the principles to do it, that's what's going to get us an end result that our clients are going to love. So here's what I have just to start out of the gate with you. Here's my first client. My first client's name is Georgia. And for all my friends and family who are on right now, Georgia's also the name of my dog. So we named her Georgia too. But here's Georgia's story. Georgia's coming into the salon. She has really straight hair, all right? So even if she air dries, it's really straight. But what she wants is movement, but she wants the illusion of one length. She doesn't want to get a lot of layers in here. The other thing that's important to know is she wants a straight, square silhouette. So she doesn't want it to start rounding out. We really want it to stay square. So we have to do two things. We have to get graduation or layers in her hair that are going to be invisible. So this is, we're going to work with invisible layers. Type in invisible layers if you've been doing this on your clients, you guys. Have you been doing invisible layers on your clients? Yeah. Awesome. So we have to do invisible layers, but then we have to get movement in our hair as well so it moves. So the first thing that I'm doing is what you guys are watching. I'm elevating this straight out to horizontal 90. Then I'm coming in, you guys see these are the 7-inch dry cut shears. These are my first choice when we're going to point cut. But here's what's important about how we're point cutting in Georgia's hair today. I'm not going to come in, I'm going to just, you can see, I'm not going to go and do this, which is what we a lot of times do to point cut, because friends love ends. If you guys have heard that before, say, that's me. I've heard that before. And oh, look at you guys, invisible layers. So yeah, so friends love ends. So here's what I'm going to do instead. My shear is going to come in at a slight angle. And this is why it's important that I have a longer shear. And I'm going to cut into the hair. But now look at what I've done. Do you see how I still left strength as I worked through those ends versus over blending it and softening it? Now, here's the other thing. This is the hot tip, is that when we go through and point cut that, leaving those ends in density, there's two things. First, my elevation, because it's straight out a horizontal 90, that's going to ensure that I'm keeping the square silhouette that Georgia said was important to her hair. But then when I come in and I'm point cutting, making sure that my shears are coming in at an angle and that I'm leaving density in those ends, it's going to give movement, but it's going to create invisible softness too. Here's what's really important. When we want to blend the ends, type blend in for me. Type blend in the comments right now. When we want to blend the ends, this is super important. When we want to blend the ends, what I'm going to do is focus on about 2 inches of the end of the hair. So 2 inches on the end of the hair when that happens. That's what's going to give me blending. Now, if I want to create movement, so now type movement in there for me. If I want movement, I've got to get to the interior part of the hair. So if you are just taking the time to create texture here, but you're not creating movement here, imagine for all those clients who have really, really long hair, like hair down, like right to here, right? If I only go in and point cut into the first 2 inches of her hair, which is, how long is my shear? This is how long I can go. So with a 7-inch shear, I can get in there this far. But what happens with the rest of the interior? No movement. And those clients keep saying, can you take more weight out? Can you take more weight out? Say, yes, I've had that client. Say yes in the comments if you've had that client. It's like, can you please take more weight out? Take more weight out. It means we need to get to the interior part of that haircut. So first, I went through and I just did that horizontal 90-degree elevation, so I kept it square, point cutting, but keeping my long shear at an angle so that I have ends there to have weight and control, but I'm giving blending because I'm working within the first 2 inches. Now let's go to the interior that's going to create movement with it. So here's what I want to show you too. I brought this girl with me today. Take a look. So this is broken down into what we say are the 5 areas of the head. So we have top, crown, back, nape, and we have the sides. Ooh, sides, right? Now, this is what's really important. When we remove weight, we need to keep in mind the areas of the head so we know how much or how little weight we can remove and still stay in control of the client's perimeter. If you take too much weight out or put too many layers in, it starts weakening that perimeter line. So especially for our clients who have fine hair, low density hair, it's going to make it seem like their hair is thinner than it is. So when we come through and we have somebody who has, let's say if they have low density hair. And keep in mind, there's a difference between fine hair and low density hair, right? One is texture and one is density. So we want to make sure that we're using the right terminology when we're talking with our client, because a lot of clients assume because they have fine hair, think that they have low density hair. Would you agree? That's not always true, right? Yeah. So we have to make sure that we are using the right term. So now I'm going to work through the crown, because we're going to say that we have low density, meaning let's just say she has like 20 hairs on her head. All right. So we don't want to get too crazy with how we're going to create movement in here. So I'm working in the crown area right here. So now what I'm going to do, oh my gosh, hi from Pakistan. Hi from Pakistan. That's so awesome. Now here's what I'm going to do. It's important, whatever the elevation was when I put the graduation in, the elevation has to be maintained when I go in and create texture or remove weight. So whatever I maintain my elevation for her graduation or her layers has to stay maintained. Otherwise, it's going to change the shape. So what I'm going to do is come in with my shears. I'm still working with my long, dry 7-inch shears. And this is what's going to happen. I want you guys to watch. I'm going to move my shears down. And every time my shears move down, they're going to close. So they're doing this. They're closing, closing, closing as I go down movement. Now what I'm going to do is I'm making that motion and closing my shears. I'm basically almost like back combing the hair and pushing it out of the way, pushing it out of the way. So here's what's going to happen. I'm working in the crown because she has low density, not a lot of hair. I'm coming in with these shears. I'm going to use just the tips of my shears and I'm going to close, push away, close, push away, close, push away, close, push away, and keep working through that hair. Then I'm going to come over. I'm going to do it again so you guys can see it. Come in. Where's my elevation? Close, push away, close, push away. And let me get out of the way because I want you guys to see what I'm doing here. Get out of here so you can see this. And I'm just pushing and cutting at the same time. Here's the other thing that I'm doing with this technique is the shears never go in at the same point of connection, right? Sometimes they go higher or out towards the ends, or sometimes they go closer into the mid shaft of the hair as well. So if I'm here, maintaining the same degree of elevation, which is horizontal 90, now coming in with my shears, I'm going to go down and close, down and close, down and close. So I'm going to come in and now look at where my shears are here. They're almost up to the ends, down and close. Then I'm going to bring them in so they're a little bit more in the interior. And it varies. So this is what's going to help create an extension of those invisible layers.
So I knew this question was going to come up, and I'm so glad it did. Does that cause split ends?
Does that cause split ends? Oh my gosh, great question. So Andrew, here's the thing, and for all of you guys watching, The most important thing you want to always make sure is that you're working with sharp shears. So I want you in the comments, put how often are you getting your shears sharpened right now? How often are you getting your shears sharpened right now? I'll tell you, these shears, I actually have 2 pairs of these shears. So I have one for when these get sent out because they go out to Precision Edge to get sharpened. These are getting sharpened. Probably I send them in about 4 times a year, so once a quarter, just to make sure they stay really sharp, because that's going to make a big difference. So great question, does it cause split ends? If you're working with sharp shears, it's not going to. The other thing to keep in mind is that I'm closing my shear, I'm not dragging it through the hair. So closing is cutting it, and then I'm pushing down to backcomb it. So I'm not working against the cuticle with my blades because they're cutting before they have an opportunity to work against the cuticle. So awesome question, you guys. You're thinking, that's good. Here's the other thing. After I go through a few sections, then I pull out my paddle brush, and you guys should know this rule, right? If the paddle brush is vertical, the rows, the pins are all aligned, versus if I go horizontal, they are going to be brick laid. So I want to take it so they're vertical. Once I've gone through and cut, then I'm going to take my paddle brush, and that's what's going to brush all that hair out. Now, here's the thing. That's what's going to give value to your client, because they're going to see that that hair is coming out. And for those clients who want movement or they want tons of weight reduction, it's going to feel so satisfying to see all that hair come out. So I like to do that with the paddle brush versus just my comb in each individual section. It also just saves me time.
And we might be jumping the gun, but we do have a couple questions on if this is an appropriate technique for curly hair and thick hair, different fabrics. Awesome.
So here's the thing about this technique is that it's going to work best on hair that's smooth, because if I had texture hair in my hands and the coilier that curl is, it would just be a lot more difficult for me to control it. So I like to do this on straight hair. So whether I blow the hair out smooth or whether I flat iron it beforehand, I would go ahead and do that. Now, curly hair, and when we start talking about curly hair that's anything more than medium wave, so once we start seeing coils in the hair, there's probably other techniques that I think would be more valuable to use for that type of hair, because then we really want to be strategic about making sure the ends stay together. And this is breaking it up so it has more movement. So now you guys can see, I'll bring her up a little bit closer so you can see this movement that she's getting in her hair, which is really great. Now, I want to take this a step further, because now you're saying, can it go on thick hair too? Yeah, it totally can. It's awesome for thick hair, but this is what we're going to change. When we worked with somebody with low density hair, we moved just in the crown. Now, as their density gets higher, we're going to move lower into the areas of the head. So now I can take the same technique and I'm going to start moving into the back of her hair. So it's going to go lower. So now I can come through and do my back point cutting and then remove that hair out. The key to this is that her silhouette is staying the same. I'm still maintaining a straight silhouette because of my elevation, which was horizontal 90. That gives us a square silhouette. But now I'm getting so much more movement and texture of those invisible layers so that it's going to be lighter and easier for her to style, and it's going to be more effortless in its look. So the biggest takeaways from this are, one, maintain the same degree of elevation. When I come in with that technique, I'm really going to make sure that I'm varying the points that I put my blade in. And then depending on the density is going to tell you, can I create movement and remove weight in the crown? Can I do it in the crown in the back? Or for people who have really thick, dense, high density hair, then I can move it into the crown and into the back and into the nape. As we come into the front, then I just want to be thoughtful of all the same things, but keep in mind, based on the hairline, she doesn't have as much hair down here. So I need to be thoughtful about what's the density versus how much can I remove. So now I might just work through the top above the parietal ridge to come through that section. And I may not put any of this weight removal as I come into the sides below that, so it doesn't weaken what's happening in her perimeter line. So if that's making sense with you guys, say I got it in your comments. Let's see how you guys are doing if that's taking it away. Christina, you're asking if I can use this technique with a razor. I would say if I was going to do this with a razor, what I would change, and I'll say like, so I have this, and this is with the texture blade on here. The only thing I would change, you'd still vary how you take this out. I would come through here and I would still vary it. So it would start like, do this so you can see here and then here, and I'd be moving out instead of in towards the hair. And I would probably do this on wet hair versus dry hair. I just feel like in general, right, razors give us their best work when they're working on wet hair. So we could do this with razor, but a lot of times when I'm removing weight, I prefer to do it on dry hair because I really want to see what is happening in the hair as I work it. I always say, is it my first date with my client, or we've been dating for a while? First dates, I always remove weight on dry hair. Once we've like gotten to know each other, we've gone on a few dinners, we've hung out for a while, then I start like, I can maybe remove some of that weight when it's wet because I know how their hair will behave and I know what my plan is with it. So that's the biggest thing with this, is that we're just working with Georgia on getting those invisible layers in. Remember, point cutting on the ends is blending. Interior movement is going to give us movement through that hair as well. So now what I'm going to do is, let's switch up. Take her off. She doesn't want to go. Oh, there we go. So we're going to take and put Georgia aside right now. And now we're going to bring another client out to you. This is Miss Zoe. So here's Zoe. Zoe's blonde. But here's the thing with Zoe, and I bet you guys have these clients who are the same way, so let me know if you do. When we look at Zoe's density, where does the density of her hair live? Zoe's density, she has high density through the mid shaft, but it really weakens as it comes to the end. If you guys have clients who have that, say, yes, I have that client. Let me see. I want to know if I'm talking to you guys. Yeah, so let me know. Perfect, you guys. That's great. Yeah, so know that density changes, and there's a couple of reasons why density changes. Density changes because, one, sometimes it's a hormonal thing, right? A lot of times after some of our clients have children, then their hair starts falling out, and as it grows back in, we have clients who have really thick hair here, but based on the hair loss they experience down here, it might be really thin, so that might be one thing. The other thing that tends to happen is we would have clients who have different density through the mid shaft to the ends based on sometimes damage. I hate to say it, but it's true, right? So if they're not using the right heat protection, if they're not using the right products at home, then that's going to be challenging those ends. So here's the thing. When we talk about removing weight and how we want to either blend or remove movement, what we have to think about is look at where the density lives. If I have somebody who's high density here, but low density here, don't point cut it. Right? And don't point cut it. Don't point cut it. Don't remove this. As I come through these ends, what's going to be super important to make her hair look thicker on those ends is I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to use my shears, and her graduation or layers will just be put in with a hard solid line. Because remember, friends like ends, and we want that to look thicker. So this is always going to be straight. Where the movement and where the weight reduction is going to happen is it's going to be here in the mid shaft where there's more density. So notice I've switched shears. So now I'm working, look at this, Artist Series slide cutting shear because it has that blade to it. So curved blade to it. So now as I bring this up, now her graduation is coming at 45 degrees above horizontal 90. So you can see it's on a diagonal. This means that we're going to get a little bit of roundness because it's going to reverse the head shape and then come in, it's going to curve in. So everything's going to be on this diagonal. I have to remember to whatever my elevation is for my graduation needs to be the same elevation for my weight removal. So now I'm going to come in with the Artist Series sliding shear with the curved blade and just go right where the density lives. And here I can just slowly, I'm closing my shear as it moves up, closing my shear as it moves up through that middle part. And think of it this way. With Zoe, Zoe loves to put a curling iron in her hair. And she wants to have like beach wave curl with it. So because she wants beach wave curl with it, we need to open up and put movement into that mid shaft so that, one, the curl will last longer for her and she'll have more movement and texture as she comes through that hair. So now come through. All right, how's everybody doing? Andrew, how are we doing on questions? Are we covering everything?
Doing great so far.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. All right, great. So maintaining the same degree of elevation, we're diagonal, right? coming in, looking where the density needs to happen. It doesn't need to happen here on the ends. She has low density on her end. She's high density in the middle. So I'm going to come in and I'm working with these slide cutting shears, and they're closing as I go through. All right. So coming into now the front, let's talk about the front, because we need to create some movement in this front area as well. Now we have a couple different types of movement that we use when we cut hair. We have elevation, which moves up and down. We also have over direction, which moves which way, you guys? If elevation's up and down, then over direction is, oh, side to side. Oh my gosh, Jody, thank you for telling me that you love Zoe's color today. So now we're going to utilize over direction, side to side, and elevation up and down. The more we move the hair to remove weight, the softer the end result will be. So now what I'm going to do is first I'm going to elevate. Now I'm also going to over direct. Over direction gives us weight and length in the opposite direction. I want Zoe's face framing pieces to move away from her face. So I need to elevate, which is going to create softness. Then I'm going to over direct. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to point cut, but guess what? I'm still using my sliding shears because it's going to give a softer end result. And I can point cut just a little bit in there as well as I go. Now that short hair is going to push the long hair. And in addition to elevation, now we're going to start seeing that that hair will stay away from our face. We can see already, this is the heavy side, here's the light side. So again, when we remove weight, take advantage of 2 types of movement, elevation and over direction. So here's elevation. Now I'm going to go over into over direction. And then I'm using my curved blade, so it's a softer piece. Now, because I'm point cutting here, notice I'm still doing like I did on Georgia. I'm still leaving dense ends into those pieces, right? So it gives more thickness to it. Then I can come back as I work into her place and it starts staying away from her face. So keeping in mind that when we're working with these clients, where does the density live? Is it throughout the entire hair strand or is it just in the mid shaft? And so where do we need to place it and what's the right tool that we're going to use for that? All right, so you guys, now we've talked about straight hair. This is a little bit about wavy hair. And I'll just show you, this is one I wanted to show you. I was going to take the 1-inch iron because now once we've placed and removed movement through this, now as I go through and I put some wave into this hair, oh, let me do this, grab this, and I put wave into the hair, that's going to be because we removed weight in the mid shaft, not just blending on the ends. Now Zoe's curls are going to hold and they'll have more movement for her. So now we can bring this out and start opening it up. And now we can see where that texture lives. And because we did over direction, we over directed it the opposite way it was going to go. Now when she puts her wave in, it's going to stay away and open up from her face. Okay. So that's with Zoe. Now I'm going to come back to Georgia just for a second, because I know the question is we still have those clients who we take tons of time and remove all that weight from the hair. And they said, I don't know, it still feels heavy. Can you take more out? So we're going to come back to talking about the areas of the head, right? Crown, back, nape. How do we start removing quickly a lot of hair in one place? So here's how we're going to section that out. I'm going to take Georgia and I'm going to create a triangle shape. So everybody type triangle in. We're going to take a triangle section. So I'm going to go down the middle. And then this is going to go about 1 inch below her parietal ridge. Section this out so you can see. And I was saying before that movement softens weight reduction, right? Movement softens weight reduction. So whether I'm elevating or whether I'm over directing, it softens it. But now if we have clients who have tons and tons of hair and I just need to get in there and I just need to get it out so they can have some movement, and I just don't want to sit there for days and days working into their hair, here's the quickest way we can do this. So now I've taken this triangle section. There's one of 2 shears I'm going to use. First, I'm going to start with this sliding shear. And now we're going to channel through the hair. So if you guys have channeled before, write in channeling in there for me. Yeah. So, yep, perfect, you guys. So type in channeling, because now we're not going to use elevation. We're not using over direction. We're just going to get in there and knock that hair out. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to put my shears in. They're going to talk straight through that section. And depending on density, I can I can push in harder and get more hair out, or I can keep it more on the surface. But also, because we know that George's intention was to keep this as a square silhouette. So by removing this weight from underneath, we're almost disconnecting it, right? But we're still keeping, do you see how nice and square that shape is for her? So we're gonna let this hair in the back and in the crown fall on top of it, and it'll be supported by the silhouette that we put underneath. So that's how we can channel. Now the other tool, you guys, that we can use, look at this. So now this is awesome. This is the Invisiblend. And let me just talk to you guys about shears for 1 second. This is what I wanted to say. First of all, for all of you that color hair, right? We start with one color brush. And with that color brush, we first do color retouches. Then as our color skills expand, right? And we move into like balayage or foliage or all the other things that we're doing on our clients right now, we can do it with this brush. It would work. But what if we had brushes that were more specifically tailored to get us to that technique? So then we have all these other kind of color brushes, right? Redken has tons of them. We love Framar brushes. There's so many companies who create all these great brushes because every brush uniquely does its job better than the one standard brush. This is the same for shears, you guys. It's the same thing. Everything I'm showing you could easily be done with. I'll show you. The 7-inch dry cutting shears are my go-to. I cut wet, I cut dry. They can do it all. So this is kind of my most universal blade. But as I go through with all of these texture techniques and weight removal techniques, in the same way that my color brushes change, I can be better and more effective at what I'm trying to produce for my client when my shear changes as well. So keep that in mind, because I think sometimes a lot of stylists get really overwhelmed with, why do we have so many different shears to choose from? Why do I need 2 different texture shears in my cutting kit, right? But there's a reason for it. And it's about being more effective and getting to that end result more quickly. So now I'm moving for my next channeling part. We're going to use the Invisiblend shears. So here's what's cool. If you see, the teeth are a little bit wider apart, but they're curved. And honestly, they're so cool, you guys. Oh yeah, hi Andrew.
Hey, just as you're working through that, just there was a couple questions that popped up on the channeling about curly hair. So just also while you're working with the texturizing shear, maybe touch on the difference between working with the texturizing shear versus a blunt shear with different fabrics.
Awesome. Thank you guys for those questions. So yeah, so curly hair. So I'll say that for the most part, everything we're talking about weight reduction right now is really going to be for straight, wavy, and a little bit curly hair. When we start getting into high coiled hair, we would probably use some different techniques, but the same placement is the same. So what I would do if I was working with curly hair, I'll tell you, I love the, where'd it go? This is my favorite shear. So it's the 6-inch slide shear from the Artist series. I love this shear to texture and remove weight from curly hair. Because it's curved, it's going to be softer and gentler on the hair. And what I want to do is when I see those bends, and let me just see, I'm going to pull out, see if we can switch out here for you guys. So if I come back to Zoe's hair, what I want to do whenever I'm removing weight in hair like this, I want to look at, get over here so you can see, where do the ebbs and flow? Where does the hair bend and curve? Where the hair bends is where the weight can be removed. So I don't want to randomly pull it out. I really want to look at curl pattern. So if I'm looking at curl pattern here on Zoe, and of course we artificially put this wave in, but let's say it was a natural wave, then I'm going to come in with this curved blade shear, and I can work through that curve to start removing weight and see how I just follow the curve. So I S-shaped with it so that I still have density in the end, so it doesn't make the end of the curl too like spit out and fuzzy, but I really want to follow that curve pattern when I do that. So techniques change just a little bit when we start getting into really curly hair, but this this shear in particular, with all my curly haired clients, they almost get full haircuts with this shear because of that curved blade and how soft it works with the natural bends in curly hair. So I hope that helps you guys out a little bit more. So that's working with curl. And then coming back over here with Georgia's hair and working through her, if I had somebody with curly hair and I wanted to remove weight, I'm again going to come back with this shear, so the soft sliding shear, and I'm actually going to pinch and cut through that. So I would pinch a section, then I'm going to come in. Let me do this so you guys can see. So I'm going to pinch a section, and then I can come down and see where the bend starts happening in the curl and start coming this way in with the hair. So I can pinch and then cut through the hair. And that just gives me a little bit more control over where that weight reduction is happening. So I still have control of a clean curl pattern in their hair versus if I'm working with more straight hair and I'm just doing a straight channeling technique, I have an opportunity to perhaps take more weight out and leave the hair more sparse on the ends, which is going to make it more fuzzy and curly hair versus straight hair. All right, I hope that helps you guys with curly hair techniques for sure. So couple different ways we did weight reduction. So when you have those clients, we just need to knock it out. Then we can come through and work into this back. And by working with this triangle section, right, from just below the parietal ridge, taking out wide, because that way we know that we're maintaining that perimeter line. Then I can come in and channel either with a curved blade or I can work with a texture blade. And then when I'm done with that, this drops back down and I can comb it into place there. Okay, and then I want to talk about the difference between the two texture blades, right? Because we have the Invisablend and we have the reversible. So let's talk about that for a second. So we're going to get my last model today. This is Daisy. Daisy's here today. Were you bringing up a question, Andrew?
Accidental tap of the keyboard.
Okay, cool. So here's the thing with Daisy's haircut. So Daisy has a short haircut, but she has a problem. She can't see right now, right? This was the haircut that was done on wet hair. And now we're going to go back in on dry hair and we're going to remove weight and give it more movement. So now is really when I'm going to start alternating between my reversible blending shear and working with my Invisablend shear. So let's just look at the difference between these two. So obviously, you guys, there's a difference in the number of teeth, right? More teeth on the Invisablend, or I'm sorry, less teeth on the Invisablend, more teeth on the reversible blender. But notice that these are curved. There's curved blades here. This is more straight, but they actually have little V notches in there as well. So when I'm coming through, I'm going to get more texture and weight removal out of here. I'm going to get more solid lines of weight removal here. We're going to come back to talking about color, right? Think about color. Like, am I doing a medium stitch or am I doing a micro stitch? It's kind of the same thing when we're working with these shears. What do we want to have happen? So as I come through, remember, like we said before, movement helps soften weight removal. So elevation and over direction. So here's what we're going to do with Daisy's hair. First of all, we're going to find her fringe and we're going to isolate that. And I'm going to take a triangle section. And my triangle section is going to go just to the outside corner of her eye right here. That's where I'm going to start that triangle. And I'm going to clip everything else out of the way so I don't get it confused with the section I'm cutting in the front for her fringe. Same thing on the other side. Outside corner of the eye. And then I'm going to clip everything else out of the way. Now, for those of you who are in Redken world, we talked about bubbles 7 and 8. This is a little bit higher because this is actually off her high point because that hair all moves forward in this hair shape. So I'm taking this a little bit, I'm taking up to the high point versus that secondary high point. The first thing that I need to do is I need to get this to move away from her face. I want this to go this way, but she has too much weight. So I'm going to work on the opposite side. So I'm working on the side, not the side that she's going to push over. I'm going to work over here. I need to knock some weight out. So I'm going to come in with my sliding shears, and I'm going to just push on that side. So you can see there's the weight I took out. But already that's going to reduce the bulk as she starts, oh my gosh, you guys, look, it's already starting to stay over. And I just did that one thing. Now let's go in with the shears, with the texture shears. And I know you guys have seen this before, and you're probably doing this in the salon. But what's really valuable is, do you know why you're doing it? Like, why is it working for you? I know I want the hair to move this direction, so I'm going to stand on the opposite side of the head. And I'm going to take diagonal sections. Just like in foiling hair, diagonal sections create softness and movement. So we're going to do, the same thing in cutting. So diagonal sections. Once I find my diagonal section, then I'm going to clip rest of the hair out of the way. Now I'm going to over direct. Remember, movement creates softness when we remove weight. So elevation, over direction to the opposite direction that I want it to go. Now, if I'm coming in with my Invisablend shears, right? So teeth farther apart, but curved. These are so cool because when I put the texture in, I never see the lines. I know you guys have probably had that client in your chair who went to probably another stylist and they textured sheared the bejesus out of their hair. And you can tell because when you elevate the hair, you see that clean, hard line from the texture shear, right? That doesn't happen with this shear because it's curved and soft. It's so awesome for this. So now I can come in, elevate, over direct, come in with my Invisablend shear and push back, push back. I'm only doing 2 of those. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to comb that out. I'm going to take my next diagonal section because remember, diagonals create softness and movement. Now elevation, over direction, working with my Invisablend shear. Now I'm going to come in and close, push, close, push. Then I can comb out that hair. Let's see how that's going if it's starting to stay in place. Comb it over. Oh, you guys, you know, when you do things on camera, what's really nice is it works out. When you have all of you watching, it's so nice when this works out. So look, now we can see that this hair is starting to stay in place. Okay, so that was with my Invisablend. Now I'm going to go in with my reversible blenders and show you how I would use that differently through here. Now with my reversible blenders, I'm going to do all the same things. My elevation's the same, my over direction's the same, but I want to take a little bit of length, some more length out with that weight. So diagonal section, bring it over. Now remember, the teeth are closer together than they were with my Invisablend. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to work out on the ends, and I'm going to keep taking that out until I've taken off weight or taken off length, right? Then I can come in again, diagonal section, elevation, over direction, come in, and I can push back in that hair. Now I have one more section, elevation, over direction, take out some of that length. Now let's see what happens. Oh. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's staying. That's so nice.
Mandy, are the teeth up or down as you're doing that?
Great question. So the teeth dictate the movement, right? So when the teeth point down, the hair will move down. When the teeth are pointing up, then they will go up. So here's what I would probably suggest. Like when I was working with the Invisablends, what I think works really nicely, especially when we want movement, and if we want to create a little more density, a little bit more frothiness or movement. When I take these diagonal sections, and this is kind of the beauty of both of these texture shears, on my first one, my teeth are up. My teeth are up so that it moves the hair up and away from the face. When I take my next diagonal section, now what I can do is I'm going to change how I'm holding. Now my teeth are on top when I come through. Then I'm going to take my next section and I'm going to reverse that blade again. So my teeth were on top. Now I'm going to change my blade. So teeth are on bottom and I'm going to come through. So now what I'm doing with the movement is with every one of those diagonals, I'm changing the movement of the hair. So the first one's going to tend to go this way. The second layer is going to go down. The third layer is going to go up. So what that'll do as she wears her hair is it's actually going to help encourage more volume and lift, more movement through that hair when I change how I'm holding the shears. So that's the beauty of both of these, is that you can hold them. They're not offset, so that we can change them so we have more control over the movement and the direction of how we're reducing weight. So that's it. But now look at this. Now that hair that didn't want to move before is holding into place, right? Now I want to move into the back of Zoe's hair. And here's what I'm going to tell you. As I cut this, when I cut her shape in, when I cut it into the back, I did this with horizontal sections because I wanted to build up that weight line. When I came into the crown, I did that diagonal because I wanted to give a little bit of roundness and reverse the head shape. So now I'm going to go in and remove weight. So you guys type it in. What's the rule? My line of elevation needs to be what in relation to the line I took with my graduation? Let's see. It needs to be the same. So if in the back, if I used horizontal lines of sectioning for my graduation, I need to use horizontal lines of sectioning to remove weight as well. I'm going to come back in with my reversible blenders, but we're going to do this a little bit different. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pick up hair with my comb here, and I'm going to point cut with these, okay? And I'm going to move up with the hair as I point cut in. I don't want to go higher than horizontal 90 in this area, or it'll start taking away the weight line. I don't want the weight line to go away. I just want to soften it and condense it a little bit more, but the silhouette needs to stay the same. So then I'm going to come through again, horizontal section. My comb's going to go underneath. I'm coming in with the reversible or the Invisablend texture shears, and I can move the hair up as I go, and I'm point cutting. And so you guys can see what that looks like is I'm here with my shear and I'm point cutting straight into the hair. But I'm still going to keep the same silhouette, but it starts condensing my shape, but it doesn't remove that weight line. So coming in again, I'm going to work through elevation, but not go higher than horizontal 90. Point cut in with the invisible blenders to give that shape. So now, same silhouette with that roundness because I stayed horizontal, which was true to my graduation, but it's condensed and it has more movement because we went in with the right tool to take that weight out and point cut it. So as we come into the top, now I'm going to go back in, and now the top, we elevated to 45 degrees. Now I'm going to come in with these shears. So these are the invisible blenders, and I'm going to push down, push down, push down, push down, push down, and take the hair out that way. So just like what I did in the first haircut with Georgia, when we did back combing with the straight edge blade, now I'm coming in with the reversible blender to do it. Could I come in, sorry, with the reversible blender, the other ones were the Invisablend. Could I come in with these? I can, but I want to be a little bit more varied. Remember, this is a straight, it's going to give me more of a straight line when I remove it. So I can come in and point cut it, but because the teeth are closer together, I don't have as much control over the movement. So I may end up taking out more hair than I want. So know the difference between these two tools and which you're going to use when. The other thing with the reversible blender, so teeth closer together with the reversible blender, that's my go-to for cutting perimeters on low density hair, but they want movement because a lot of times when those clients see a razor come out, just think about that. Think about your clients who have low density. They have 20 hairs on their head and then they see you pull out a razor. Do they kind of have a meltdown? Yeah, right? So we need to do something where we still need to create softness, but movement, but keep density. So on this side of our head, let me do this so you can see this right here. This perimeter is cut with the reversible blenders. So it's cut with the reversible blenders, just coming in and going back and forth, back and forth. Because of the teeth being close together, we get a slight variation in the length every time we move and cut that. So we get solid but soft as we go into that perimeter, okay? So having control over that. So I like to use the Invisiblends when I'm working on a lot of interior work. I like to work with the reversible blenders when I'm working more out on the ends of the hair. So that gives you an idea of which one. But it's the same thing, like why I have two different color brushes, right? Because depending on the technique, I could do it all with this, but if I use something that's specially designed for that technique, it's going to get me there faster and more effectively. So I'm just going to say, saw another question on there. Moving hair. Yeah, okay, good. I think we're good. If you guys have questions, keep putting them in because Andrew's going to bring them up for me as we go. But the biggest thing is just making sure that we're using the right tool in the right way to get the right results. Let's get her going here for you. There we go. All right. Now, when we were talking about that perimeter with Georgia, I want to talk about razors just for a second, because you guys know what is so nice about the Samvia razors. We have 3 different kinds, right? So with the Samvia razors, we have 3 different blades we can use. We have the straight edge blade, which is going to give us, I don't think I have the straight edge blade in, straight edge blade, which is going to give us more of a straight texture. I also have the blending blade, but I also have the texture blades. So when I did this perimeter, just so you guys could see the difference in it, each part of our perimeter has been cut with a different tool, depending on how much weight I wanted to remove or how much movement I wanted to put in her perimeter. So here is where we used the reversible blender. Okay, so we used the reversible blender on that side of her perimeter. As I came to the back, we use the Samvia straight edge blade razor because we wanted to take a little bit more weight out and have it be a little bit softer. But I think what's really underutilized is understanding the texture blades on these razors. So now look at this texture blade. Do you guys see that? So this is going to take more weight out, more strategic weight out, and make it piecier. So this part of her perimeter right here, let's see. Texture blade, this is, so you guys can see how piecey that is as it comes through. So we have so many tools available to us when we're talking about removing weight from the hair, but here's all the things that are really important. One, we have to keep in mind, where does hair need to be removed from? Low density hair, crown. Medium density, crown back. High density hair, we can go into each one of these areas. Same thing though, think about it from the side. If I have somebody with low density hair, I only want the weight removal to come from the top. I need to leave the density of the side so that the perimeter stays strong, especially on our low density clients, because then it'll look like their hair is thinner than it is. But as their hair becomes more dense, then I can start moving through the sides. The second thing that we want to make sure we remember is, are we blending or are we creating movement in the hair? So if we're blending, you guys type it in, where does blending live? In the first, what part of the hair? The ends or the middle? When we're blending hair, we're going to just be removing weight from the first 2 inches in those ends. That blends it. It softens our lines. But when you want to get in there and remove weight, we need to go in and start working through the mid shaft of the hair so that we can start having movement happen, all right? Blending happens here, movement happens here. Then, based on your texture and how much weight you want to remove, that's how we start deciding what type of tool are we using to make that happen. So as I come through here, I have one other thing that I want to show you guys, and we're going to come back through and work with Daisy. I'm going to come in and I'm going to come back to the sliding, Artist Series sliding shear, because I'm going to work a little bit more on this fringe, because what's happening now, this is holding, but you see how there's this weight right here we need to remove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move her fringe out of the way, take that out of the way, clip this into place. Here's where her weight is. I need to get rid of some of this weight so that it helps to hold this hair back. Remember, in this part of her fringe, I came through and I cut into it and removed the weight. I still have weight on the other side, so I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So let me turn this so you can see. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to open that up just a little bit. I don't want to take away from the perimeter, but I just want to soften that side a little bit more and open it up. So now what we've done, when I drop this, we cut a diagonal. Let me look at it. We cut a diagonal of weight on this side, diagonal of weight on this side. So now when it pushes over, when it pushes over, we've knocked out that side so it'll hold into place. And of course, then we want, oh yeah, look at that, staying. So then we're gonna finish with product. If you're gonna take the time to remove weight, and if you're gonna take the time to blend those ends, it'll never show unless you come in with the right product, right? So I love Wax Blast 10 from Redken, and this is what I'm gonna do. So it's a really fine mist aerosol wax. Give a little heart if you have used Wax Blast, because I love Wax Blast. And what I wanna do is, however tall the container is how far you hold it away from the hair. So it's an important thing to educate your client on. Then what I'm gonna do is, so I'm gonna bring the hair up, I'm gonna spray this in, elevate the hair, and this is where now we start to see all the texture that we took the time to put into our client's hair. This is where the client starts seeing the value of all of that hard work that you put into their hair. So now I can start shaping this in to their hair. And I need to take a look at her. And getting that shape into place. Oh, look at that. She just stays right there. Look how cute that is. So that's all the work that we did with both types of texture shears. So we use the Invisablend as well as we also use the reversible blenders. Now, same thing when we come back to Georgia's hair. Georgia's hair, the same thing. When we start moving her, look at all that texture that we put in, because we didn't just blend it on the ends, we removed weight from the interior, which creates movement, right? So it still has the look of almost one length until she starts moving. So if I come through, and the same thing, if I want to amplify this with a little bit of texture, then she gets more of a tousled, lived-in look, which I think right now I have tons of clients who want their hair to look more organic, is the word that we use. So we want it to be organic, we want it to be really pretty, and we want it to look effortless. So this is where we come in with removing weight and then texturizing the hair, making invisible layers, giving movement to our client. You guys, you've got this. And so now hopefully you have some tools that you can take back to the salon and start utilizing. Take a look at your client's hair. In the consultation, what are their goals? If they want movement, you've got to go from the interior, but you've got to use the right tool when you do it. So that's why I have this amazing collection of shears that I work with. All right, how are we doing, Andrew?
So good. You have just knocked this class out of the park. I mean, in the course of 55 minutes, I think you showed more texture techniques than I could possibly ever approach. That's awesome.
Good. Well, but I think that's the thing. I mean, really, I think we underutilize some of the tools. And sometimes we get these new fun toys and then they collect dust in our shear case. And there's such cool things that you can be doing with them. And I think it makes us look more like a master at our skill set to our clients when we're using all the right tools to get to the end result with their hair.
Yeah, and great point. And, we always kind of compare it to other crafts, right? Like if someone came to your house to fix your sink and they just brought in one wrench, you'd kind of be like, can I trust this person to fix my sink? So, that's kind of the same thing as the hairdresser. People love to see all these different tools come out. I know even for me, when I was in the salon, when I would get out my case of Sam Villa shears, which, of course I had all of them, I'd open this case and the person sitting in my chair would be like, whoa, are you really going to use all those shears on my hair? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, a carpenter doesn't just use one screwdriver. So I'm going to use probably 5-6 different shears on your hair. And so the perception of value really increases with that. So, people always ask like, well, can I just get away with this one shear, 2 shears? And it's like, you can, absolutely.
Yeah, you totally
you can do most of your work with 1 shear. That's possible. But do you want to pound in the nail in your wall with the heel of a shoe or the right size hammer?
Yeah.
Right.
I always say you can paint a house with a nail polish brush, but it just takes a really long time. Wouldn't you rather just have good paintbrush for it, have the right thing.
Absolutely.
And I'll just say, like, and for me, like my gateway shear is always that 7-inch dry cutting shear. Like that was like the gateway into it. And I only thought I needed that one shear, but now every time I'm done with a haircut, I have the whole collection out. But it's really like, it's just truly because it makes me a better artist to do it that way.
For sure, for sure. And it keeps us having fun too, right, Mandy? Like the more that you work in the salon, especially like you've been in the salon for 18 years, 18 years into your career, you need things that keep you excited too. And I mean, how many of you guys out there, when you get a new shear in your hand, don't you get super excited to get to the salon and just use them and try them out? So it's as much for us too.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I think too, though, sometimes, Andrew, we get that new shear in our hand and we get excited to use it. But then when it actually comes time, we kind of choke on it because we're not sure, oh, wait, what am I supposed to do with this? Right. So here's the other thing that, is a hot tip. You guys get your mannequin heads out. Practice on your mannequin heads. Play around with this texture and weight removal. Don't let your client be the first model when you use these new techniques. Take a minute, get a mannequin head out and play around with it, because that's what I do all the time when I get a new tool. Is like, how do I drive this machine? What's going to be it? What's going to be its advantages for me?
Yeah, for sure. And guys, I just want to remind you, because I saw your question on there, Jamie, about your texture iron. Remember that the YouTube channel has over 500 videos on it. So if you're looking for information on any of our shears, any of your tools, you want techniques with any of those tools, head to the YouTube channel. And if you search that particular tool, you will find content with that particular tool. So, Mandy, thank you so very much for spending your time with us this morning. This was an incredible class. I hope you were seeing, I know you were seeing in the chats just so much positive feedback and so many learnings that are happening this morning. So we see on the screen at Fancy Finishes, your Instagram, anywhere else that they can connect with you.
Yeah, well, at Fancy Finish was actually a lot of the information that I talked about today. So in addition to reviewing back on Sam's channels, you can go back to my Instagram to see a lot of this. But I also teach cut and OI and a lot of cutting programs with Redken. And we're fingers crossed the Redken Exchange will be open and we have our first cut and OI coming up. I know, hopefully in September. So you guys, I would love to see all of you there. And we're going to use our favorite tools, all the Sam Villa collection there. So come see us live when you get that chance as well. Whether we're like this, Andrew, or whether we're in the same room together, I love sharing and seeing what everybody's takeaways are.
Well, that definitely comes through. Thank you so much for your generosity today. Just hang out in the green room for a few minutes as I wrap up. And thank you so much, Mandy.
All right. Thanks so much, you guys, for watching today. I loved it. Thank you.